Welcome back to the Sledgehammer's Edge Impact. Today I have a very special episode chalked out for you. It's on leadership, which happens to be my favorite topic. And I have an authority on leadership today as our guest. Leadership evolves from the very autocratic ones that I was used to an eventual transformational one which exists today. And yet leadership comes in various forms and packages, and it's always leadership that creates an organization or destroys it. In fact, one of the premises on which we're working on this particular podcast is based on an experience I've had over 4 decades in the corporate world, when I would interview hopefuls to join the organization, and I would actually ask them, what is it that has made you leave the organization you are working in or are planning to leave the organization you're working in to join mine? The best part was that they would never actually talk about an inadequate compensation or the general atmosphere or not really seeing a way forward in their careers. They would actually talk about a collapse in their relationship with their leadership or their immediate reporting authority. And everything that becomes toxic in their lives would be because of this one singular collapse. So therefore, what should leadership be? What is it that would attract you in a leader to be with him? Or more importantly, if you're a leader yourself, what are the traits that you must adopt to be a successful leader? So join me in welcoming Prasanna Moses. Let's step right in and enjoy the ride. Hello, Prasanna, and thank you so much for agreeing to be part of the Sledgehammer's Edge Impact.
Thank you, Anand. It's so nice that you said that you would like to talk to me on this your podcast series. I'm very excited to hear what you want to ask me and share what I know.
Well, I tell you what, we would, me, myself, and all the viewers that I have around me who will eventually watch this podcast, have been demanding for an authority on leadership for a long time. And obviously, the moment that came to me, Prasanna Moses was the one that popped up in my mind, and I said, it has to be Prasanna Moses and cannot be anybody else as of now. Now, the premise of this entire conversation, one of them, of course, not all of them, would be on a particular issue on leadership, which I have been noticing when I was in the corporate world, and I would take interviews for people who were hopefuls to join the organizations I used to work for. Majority, and I would ask a very simple question: why is it that you want a new job? Why is it that you left your older one? What was it that ailed you there? And 90% of the candidates would not talk about salary issues, not talk about the growth issues, not talk about where am I heading in that organization? I would like to head for bigger things.
Right.
It was always about leadership. They had a problem with their leadership, and I think a majority of organizations, probably across the world, lose out when they ignore the fact that the reporting authority or the leader for any team, small, big, whichever strata in the organization, is not always viewed and reviewed as a person who brings in a lot of inspiration, a lot of non-toxicity, if that such a word exists, brings in a lot of bonhomie amongst teams, a lot of understanding, a lot of IQ and EQ put together. You don't have a winning team, and therefore you don't have a winning organization. After all, an organization is not about brick and mortar. It's all about the people out there. And people buy into you if you are good enough to be bought, so to speak. So that's an area of concern. There are other areas of concern which we will cover. But before we do that, Prasanna, let the whole world know who you really are.
Okay. All right, Anand, you brought out a very good point. Just before I move on to my own life story. People don't leave companies; people leave their managers. That's a saying.
Yes,
So
exactly.
that's very true. That's very, very true in my own experience as well. So yes, about my life, I think it probably reads like a book because I was a very very good child. Like I was the eldest, and
All right.
so I was very well behaved, and I did my homework. So I was quite a boring child as such, because I would read a lot. I would just want to read and read books. So and what that did to me was that I would visit worlds that I didn't even know, right? So books do that to you.
Yes.
They take you to worlds that you so
They transport you into a world of
yes,
amazing imagination.
yes,
It's most often real life, actually.
yeah, and it was beautiful for me, to read about, these. I used to read about the Grimm's ghost stories, and I used to read about Enid
Oh,
Blyton
yes, the
books,
Secret
and
Seven. The Secret Seven. You
all
all
of
grew up
them,
with it.
all of them. So I was kind of, did all those kinds of readings. I did, and my parents also bought books on spiritual things, but it was more like Amar Chitra Katha kind of books,
Right,
comic books.
right.
So I also got to read about Rama and Mahabharata and all of those things as well, along with the story of a queen, the queen Esther, and so stories in the Bible as well. So reading was something I was passionate about, and I'm still passionate about it. I just love. Apart from sleeping, sleeping is my first love.
I love that. I just love that.
And reading is my second love. So that was my childhood. As far as I can remember, I used to read a lot, and my parents and my grandfather was there as well, who used to live with us, my paternal grandfather. He would, I remember them saying, go out and play for a bit. So I was very reluctant. So I was like this kind of my body and mind is such that I would not play a lot, but I would love to sit and read something, and whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Sometimes I would just be reading newspaper,
Right.
because I didn't have anything else to read. And because of that, I had a lot to talk about. I had a lot of questions. I had a lot of things to say to other children, and ask teachers questions about some things. And I was this girl who would ask a lot of questions, and my mother would get tired. Why are you asking? Where do you get all these questions? Why do you have so many questions? Right?
Yeah.
So, and my grandfather used to say, don't discourage her from asking questions, because
Yes.
it's very
Yes.
important for her to ask.
Yes.
She needs to ask questions. It's okay if we don't have the answers, but don't discourage her from asking
Yes.
questions.
Yeah.
So I was this little girl who always had a lot of questions. But I was very timid as well. I was not this very bold bold child. I was not at all a bold girl. I was extremely different from what I am right now. No, did not like talking to people a lot. Like to keep to myself.
Yeah.
So I was a very good student, like I said. So I always scored good marks, and I was in the first three ranks of in the class. I was always the class leader, and then when I graduated to the top of the school, I was the school leader as well. So you
Okay.
can see that trajectory where that naturally my tendencies to do leadership roles was there from my childhood. So if I look back, although I didn't know it at that time,
Yes.
um, teachers, of course, would nominate some. I was the tallest girl always in class.
Right.
So there were many factors. So I was doing well in studies. I was also the tallest girl. And I would also know how to control other children. Not with shouting down at them or something, but being nice to them, you know.
Right.
So,
Right.
so I would kind of get everybody on board as to how they should do a certain thing in a certain way, and not really, jeopardize what the teacher wants us to do, etc. So I always had that kind of a tendency to get things done with a group of people and group of children. So I think if I look back, it all started from there, I think.
Right. Right.
So I never had this, although I was a timid girl, I was not I didn't shy away from taking this responsibility of
Right.
being a leader, right?
Right.
I enjoyed that even sometimes, teacher would say, go collect all the books, distribute these books to, to the other students and all, and get the map from the map room, stuff like that. So that's how it started. And then my family on the other hand said, oh, this girl is going to be a doctor one day. She has to be, she's going to be a doctor. So that's how, we were all slaughtered into doctors, engineers, and
Okay.
those kind of
But
slots.
what was it that made her say that you were probably a doctor? Is it something to do with the leadership qualities?
Probably my being like not a very rough kind of child, but a very caring. I would take care of my brother and sister, and
Ah,
I would
okay.
do such things. I would listen when others are speaking and not interrupt or not be
Yeah.
focused and not be all over the place. So like maybe some of these things. So
Which
the
which which I
seed.
think which I think are very important traits of leadership.
Yes,
Any
absolutely.
which way. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. So
Yes.
I think I wouldn't take the entire credit to myself that I'm born like that or I'm made like that. I'm sure the environment also contributed to that. I'm sure there was a contribution from my grandfather or my parents, etc., who molded me like that as well, right? So
Right.
it's not just I was, a born leader or something like that. I think
Right.
they encouraged me to take up such roles, do certain things in a way that developed my natural tendencies, my natural capabilities. So that was the seed that was put in me. As far as I remember, when I was 6 years old, I was the only thing I would hear is that she's going to be a doctor, she's going to be a doctor, she's going to be a doctor. So for me, it was like that was the goal that became like, I have to be like a doctor someday.
Right.
And I would constantly imagine myself to be a doctor, right? So much so that my father moved from where we lived in Andhra to Bangalore, to St. John's Medical College,
All right.
work as a professor there, um, teaching the first year students. And his aim was eventually my daughter is going to come here. So
Oh, okay.
that was his
Okay.
plan, right? So he made that move, I think maybe in the late 60s, um, or early 70s. And that's when we also moved after my father settled down here. He started his PhD program, and he, as he was doing that, we all moved. There was a gap between my father coming and us coming.
All right.
But throughout my school days, everything, it was just, I'm going to be a doctor.
Okay.
Now I am not a doctor. So
Yes. Okay.
so I'm sure you'll be interested to know what happened in between.
Exactly. I was going to ask you that. What actually happened that moved your entire traverse from a journey towards a dock to leadership?
Yeah. So when I finished my my 12th, or my PUC, I scored well, and I at that time there were these there was no common entrance test those days. It was like each college had its own entrance exam. So I did the St. John's exam, pretty tough. And I wanted to do the Pune exam as well as the CMC. But my father said, "Oh, no, no, no! You don't need to do all of that. You are sure to get into St. John's. So you just don't need to do all of it. Don't focus on all of that. Just get through the St. John's one." First year I flunked. I didn't
Okay.
get the percentage that
All right.
needed, for me to get in there. But and I put an effort one more year. So I took some time off, and I was preparing for the entrance exam, and then I did for the next year when the entrance exam came, I did it again. And my father said, "This time surely you'll get it." And I did. I got through my exam, entrance exam, but I was not put in the staff list. You know what? So there's a staff list that is given, like
All
who
right.
children of the staff who get that, and there is a merit list. So staff children, along with me, there were two other children who
Okay.
also did the exam, and they were put in the staff list, but I was put in the merit list.
Okay.
So what happened was that there's some politics happened in the college, and they said, staff children only two can be taken. Your daughter cannot be taken, and they are Catholics, and St. John's is a Catholic institution. So we need to put those two children there. I'm sure your daughter will get through in the merit group.
Right.
But then, during the interview, I said something. I was 15 or 15 plus, Anand, at that time. There was some question about abortion. So
Oh.
I said, yeah, I mean, if she's having 7 children and her husband has abandoned her, I wouldn't, as a doctor, wouldn't recommend her to have another child, right?
Exactly.
So I would do the abortion. I was for abortion. That killed it. Okay, so that's it.
My gosh, I can't believe this. Okay.
So that killed it, and they said your daughter has wrong views on life, and she does not value life, and so we cannot admit her into this college if she thinks that it's okay to do abortion. So anyway, so that ended my desire to become a doctor.
Right.
Actually.
Right.
Then my father said, "Okay, go on into doing sciences, do a bachelor's in science, and eventually at some point you can again come back and do an entrance exam." And I told my father, "Nothing doing. I'm done. I don't want to be a doctor anymore. I don't like all this." And I was also pissed off with my father not letting me do the other exams. So all of that, it was in a very confused state of
Okay.
affairs, and I joined my degree course, and I was like, did not study. I was a good student till then. I got through my degree by sheer grace of God. I did not study well at all, not to my satisfaction.
I can actually, I imagine it because I have met quite a few professionals, very seasoned ones, who, when they talk about their past, they always say, they talk about this vortex
Yes.
that you get into because your parents want you to do something which is remotely connected with your actual passion.
Yes, yes.
And when that happens, there's always this vortex, this whirlpool that they get into, and then everything goes very, very negative. It's like a a kickback in psychology, where all of a sudden you say, if I'm not allowed to do this, I'm not going to allow me to do what you want me to do.
Correct.
I mean, it's that rebel without a cause, start building up. So I can imagine what happened with you. Yes.
Right. So I was like, really, I went into depression. I lost weight. I wouldn't eat. And my parents were getting very worried about me because I kind of in 6 months, I think I lost like 10 kilos or, 12 kilos, something like that.
My gosh.
So they were very worried about me. I wasn't crying a lot. I did cry, but I wasn't crying, but I just had no appetite. I had no desire to live. Thoughts like, when is this life going to get over? Thoughts
Yeah.
like that. I'd
Yeah.
never thought like I should kill myself or anything. But how long is this life going to go on? Uh, and when is it going to end? Those kind of
Right.
thoughts. I distinctly remember having those thoughts. I was bored with life, so I did not want, to do anything interesting. I was just going through the paces of life. That's all.
Right. Right.
Anyway, I completed my degree, and meanwhile, I met my future husband, and then I was kind of. We used to talk, believe it or not, we used to talk philosophy and stuff like that, which I don't know
Right.
if other boyfriends would like to indulge in such things, but he was also into it. So we discussed a lot about those things, what morality and ethics and stuff like that. And eventually we got married. Uh, and then,
And then, of course, Moses is a priest. He was a priest.
yes, he was a priest. And let me tell you, and my father, who wanted me to become a doctor and also make me into a neurosurgeon, because his research was all into brain, the hypothalamus of the brain. So
Okay.
he was sure what he wanted to make me. He was going to make me a neurosurgeon.
All
Okay.
right.
At the very least, I should marry a neurosurgeon or somebody like, somebody like that in that field, in the medical
Right.
field. That was his dream. But here I met this priest and wanted to marry him, and my father was extremely discouraging of that, and he said like, you are really going to suffer in life, because a priest has no earnings, and you're not going to have the comfortable life that you've had so far with me, and all of those things. I said, yeah, I mean, I am sure I can make my life. It's okay. If I don't have the comforts that I have right now,
Right.
I'm okay with it. And then he knew that if I make up my mind, that's it. There's no turning back. So anyway, so got married and everything. So I went through a lot of ups and downs there. I was my depression was continuing for a bit longer
Right.
into the marriage
Right.
as well after I finished. So we traveled to US to study. He had a scholarship and I had a co-scholarship.
Right.
So I did my computer science, got a few credits in the University of Texas.
Wow.
And then, I traveled back because I had left my child behind because we did not have the visa to take him. My firstborn was like left with my parents.
All right.
So I came back like within 6 months, but Moses continued there, for a year and a half, and then he came
Right.
back.
Right.
Uh, and then at that time, I was like very determined, Anand, to you believe it or not, because my mother was also, a working woman. I somehow felt like, neglected, or, I thought like, women shouldn't be working really. They should focus on the home, because the man is really getting out and struggling and getting the mullah. Women should really focus on home, and why my mother is not doing that, and I was really upset with that, and I
So
had
that
my comment.
this thought actually bothered you. Why is it that your mother is going out and
Yes,
working
yes,
and
yes. You
not doing?
see,
All right.
this was
Okay.
paradoxical because, I was
That's
planning
exactly
to
what I
become a
felt.
doctor.
That's
I
what
was
I felt.
planning to become a doctor, but, I had this thing at the back of my mind. So anyway, when I got married, etc., I was determined, like, I was not going to take up a career. I am going to be a homemaker. I am going to be taking care of the family. And I am not going to be looking out to, do any job.
Right.
But that didn't work out as well as I planned to be, because I started questioning myself, like, why did I go through schooling? Why did I go through a college education? Why did I get an education, or in computer science, etc.? What am I doing with it?
Right.
Like, is it
Right.
going to be useful to me or to anybody else? Or am I just going to like rot in this feeling of, like I'm a useless person?
Right.
So
Right.
I was going through that, and Moses, he was really, really helpful, in terms of not pushing me to do anything. He said, "Why don't you do a teacher's, what is that called? B.Ed, right? B.Ed."
Right,
I
right,
said, "No, no way. I will not do a teacher's training course or B.Ed or whatever. I will not do that because on my father's side, everybody is teachers. On my mother's side, like they are not all teachers, but teachers and teachers in the family." I
right.
said, "No, I don't want to be a teacher." And so he didn't push me. And then I got into doing NIIT.
Okay, okay.
Because one of my friends, she saw what I was, going through, and she said, "Just apply, just go and go talk to the." And NIT had just started. Maybe it was like 2 or 3 years old, maybe at that time. And she said, "Why don't you go and check? Because you have this background of science and computer
Right,
science and all of that.
right,
Just
right,
go and see if they have any courses." So I
right,
went, visited that place, talked to them, and I was like really kicked. And I said, "Oh yes, I can learn programming and all
right.
about. I can continue my whatever I learned in the US. I can continue." So for 2 years, Anand, we lived in KGF that time.
Okay,
Moses was posted there as a priest for 3 churches. So I took, and my son was about a year old. For 2 years, I would travel every Monday. I would pick up the child and my luggage and get into a bus, come to Bangalore, stay with my parents, and attend classes
right.
Tuesday through Thursday, and go back on Friday to be with my husband again.
Okay.
I did that for 2 years. Okay.
My gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, because that was something like I really wanted to do. That was
Right,
something that I enjoyed
right,
doing. I liked studying the programming languages and a lot of computer science related
right,
courses. So I got a diploma at the end of it after 2 years. And I was, we got campus, selection there, and I got into an IT company.
right.
So after that, there's no looking back. My journey, the trajectory was set. This was in 1990. So
Okay, okay.
my first job was in 1990. And then, of course, I worked in multiple companies, and when I joined this company, I was 28 years old.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And I only joined because I wanted to kind of be of value to myself and to others, etc. So it was not like I need the money, or I need financial independence, or I need to fulfill some void in my life. It was not
Right,
like that.
right,
It was like I have something, I have a talent, I have education, I have something that is given, right? Many people have contributed to giving me what I have right now.
right,
I
right,
can't just keep it with me and pretend like, nothing matters, just take care of the house, etc. That was not enough. I
right.
needed to give back. That was the reason why I wanted to go back and take up work and give it back. And I
Okay.
was 28 at that time. I remember a lot of women start their careers around 22 or 23.
Yes, yes.
Uh, I was I was a little older at that time, but it didn't really matter. I used to see my friends, like either in college, etc. They had already, they were already in higher positions
Right,
in different parts of the world, in different companies. But I didn't let that really bother me. I said, like, I need to focus. My life is different. I am on my life's trajectory. So I'm not going to really compare myself to who is where,
right,
and they have the right to be there. They have started. They started early, and they have grown up to that level. But I have my life, and it's not too late. I can start my career now.
I actually, Prasanna, I really like what you said.
Uh-huh.
I loved it. Because one of the biggest mistakes most very effective professionals make, and that makes them very ineffective, is that they're constantly comparing themselves to other professionals around them.
Yeah.
They are never looking at what they were yesterday and then creating a new bar
Exactly.
to achieve. And I think that's actually true leadership, because leadership is all about being a better version of yourself every moment of existence. It's not about, because if I had to compare myself to somebody else and I put my bar at his level of so-called efficiency, which is my understanding, after that, what next?
Yeah.
But if I am always pegging myself and saying, okay, this is what I was yesterday, I got to be a couple of notches more today, then it's infinite where I can actually reach as leader. So I really love what you said. I really love what you said.
Absolutely. So, in fact, when I joined that company later on, about like 2 or 3 months later, I learned that the person I was reporting to did not want me, and not exactly. I was reporting to the head of marketing.
Okay.
See, with all my education in the computer science field, that company wanted to take me into marketing because my communication skills were very good.
Right.
So I got into marketing, and did a lot of liaison with advertising companies, and crunching numbers from different parts of India, etc. I was doing all of that. I was okay, like crunching numbers, etc. I was okay, but it was not satisfying for me at all to be in that marketing job, because it was not really using all of my talent. Yes, communication skills, I can speak well or write well, etc. All of that is fine, but some of the falsity of it, like when I say that, it is like, you inflate something, you the value of something is X, and you inflate it to 3X or 10X or whatever. That's what marketing was kind of doing, and I did not like the inauthenticity of that. It didn't gel very well with me, and I was like kind of looking out to change my job. Like I was kind of thinking, like, should I look for something else? This is not exactly what I want to do. But I was doing very well. Everybody was very happy. But there was one person, and I want to specifically share about this, because it is sometimes the misogyny that a lot of women face as well. Was there at that time. There was one person, and you probably this is a famous person from Infosys, who was embroiled in a sexual harassment case as well. Very famous person. He was in my group. And he said, "Oh my God, why are they hiring such an old person to this? I was 28, like I said, such an old person, and if you and she's married as well. She's going to get pregnant and go on maternity leave. So the work is not going to get done for us. I don't know why they take married women into these kind of jobs." So I heard about that like a few months into the job. So I was very hurt when I heard that, but I did not really pay attention to that, or I did not really take it to heart. But when after a few years, when I look back, it was a bit, it was hurting, or it was not a nice experience. I recollected. I had put my feelings down and suppressed it and hid it somewhere.
But you just couldn't let go of it. You just couldn't let go.
I couldn't. It was a very wrong thing to have said, and I was too young to probably confront him with that.
But eventually, did you take this as a challenge to then create your own Garden of Eden, so to speak, where it came to leadership?
I would be a little bit more conscious when such comments were made. Over a period of time, I gathered enough confidence to confront people when
Yes.
people made such
All right.
comments,
Yes.
or even gently correct people. When I even remember much later in my life, there was one person, one guy. We were all having lunch, and there was one guy who looked at, I mean, a very petite girl. And when I say girl, she was about 35 or so at that time. He looked at her and said, "You are very sexy. You're very hot." And he said
Oh
stuff
my
like
gosh.
that.
Yeah. This
uh,
seems to be.
so so I just turned to him, and she was like, she covered herself, and then she said, "You perv," or something like that. She said that, and she turned. But I turned to this guy and I said, "Do you know you could lose your job for what you just said?" uh,
Yes. Yes.
right? You could lose your job.
Right.
And he was like really taken aback, like when I said you could lose your job. And he said, "Did I say something wrong? I mean, I'm just saying facts." I said, "No,
Yeah.
you can't say that, like how you said it. And you can't take liberties to speaking like that with a woman. Unless she's very intimately known to you, and it's not to be, these kind of things you cannot say in public,
Yes.
to someone, when you're having lunch with other people. You
Yes.
cannot do that, especially in professional setting. You cannot talk like that.
This isn't a
If
social
you're
handle tweet.
reported,
This isn't a social handle sweet tweet.
yes." And and I said,
All right.
and then he then after lunch, after some time, he came back to my desk and he said, "I'm sorry I said that." He was afraid probably I'll go and complain.
Okay.
And I sat him down and I said, "I hope you realize, that this was a wrong thing and that you will never
Yeah.
ever do that.
Yeah.
Not only that, if any other man speaks like that, please remember to correct him."
Absolutely, absolutely. That's well done, well done. Absolutely. I think
Yeah.
that is the crux of it all. That's the crux
Yeah.
of it all.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
that's
So that's I just wanted to bring that, although
yeah.
this is a
No,
kind of a
I think it's
distraction.
very important you did this. It's very
Mm,
important you did this because you see, leadership also exists very profoundly amongst women.
mm,
It's just not the men who are supposed to be leaders. I think, in my entire career of 4 decades,
mm,
the best leadership that I worked under were women actually, because
mm.
they were far more committed, number one,
Sure.
less
Mm,
political in
mm,
nature,
mm,
and they had the right mix of emotion and command.
mm.
Command is a very simple thing for any leader.
Yeah,
How long does it take you to do this, get the job done?
yeah.
But saying that with the right level of emotion, which connects you to the command, not as a command,
Mm,
but actually as a way of existence professionally, makes that world of a difference between a leader and a leader who understands that he's dealing with human beings, not just with designations.
sure, sure.
I
Yeah,
think I think that that's a very nice thing that you actually did.
yeah,
An excellent thought. An
yeah,
excellent thought. Yeah.
yeah.
So how did all this finally take you to that one step you finally took and said, "I am going to become an authority on leadership," and then began a brand new
Yeah.
world?
Yeah. Yeah, so it was like, every company I changed, I always took bigger roles.
Right. Right.
Not only in managing bigger teams of people,
Yes.
and it was also distributed. Like, the first job I took, like I said, was marketing, but the second job that I took was in software quality, which is like, a
Okay.
lot of testing and a lot of test script writing, etc.
Right.
And that involved, having a team of people who did that as well, but then interacting with different projects, right? So it gave me an opportunity to cut across the organization and not just stay in my bubble of my project, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I would go, to different projects and different people, and interact with them, understand their projects, write the test scripts for them, etc. So I did that for a while. Very soon, the head of the organization called me and said, "Look, we're going to do ISO certification." And this was, way back in the 90s. He said, ISO was just coming in, and
Right.
so he said, we want to do for our company, we want to do ISO. Do you want to be part of that? So I said, yeah, let's do that. But he said, I would like you to lead that. I said, I'm not ready to lead that. Okay. Because
Okay.
I don't know anything about ISO. If somebody is leading it, and I will just, follow that. I will be your team member, but, I do not want to take this, because I don't know anything about ISO. So then what happened was that they got an external consultant, they found another person who would lead this, and I would just be, part of the team, etc. And we were doing that. It took us probably about 9 months or so to get this whole thing moving, because you have to, you must have done it. You have to move the whole organization to one,
Yes. Yes.
one track.
Yes.
So it took some time, and then the day we got the certificate, the guy who was leading this initiative brought the files and everything, all the paperwork and everything, just dropped it on my table and said, okay, here goes, from today you're the one who's going to lead this, whatever happens about ISO, you're the one who's going to do it. I'm done. I'm not going to do it. So I was like, well, I don't know if I can do that. He said, don't kid yourself. You did all the work. You did, you know what is happening. I was hardly in any of the meetings, and you were the one who was talking to everybody. You led this. Don't kid yourself that you can't do it. Okay, so you just have to take it, and that was it, Anand. And I just took it, and from then on, I never ever said no to anything.
Awesome.
To leadership or anything like that, to anything, any initiative that was organizational level, change initiatives that were typically organizational level. I never did anything like, for a project or anything smaller like that. It was always organizational. Like I said, then it became pan-India. So we had different teams in, Hyderabad and Pune and Delhi and Chennai. So there were 5 or 6 centers, development centers, and I had teams in all of that. So there was a lot of coordination, a lot of travel that I had to do to different.
But you pulled it off very well, right? You pulled it off very well.
I did.
One good
think.
break. I'll tell you why I'm so congruent with what you just said.
Yeah.
Because I need to share something with you. When I see my entire career in corporate was an education. It was an education. Money came as it does. I was in business development. I was a hardcore sales executive. So money always comes to people who sell, because ultimately no organization can survive if its products don't sell in the market. It's a high tension job, but it's a well paid job.
Yeah.
And but I always took my career as an education, and I think that is one of the strengths of probably the reason why the leadership quality in me kept getting developed over a period of time, which finally took me to the eventual summit of my career as a CEO. But the same level of confidence that you felt when someone just threw that fire at you. I had joined one of the world's largest advertising agency, and I joined the agency because my entire life I felt I had learned how to sell products. I didn't know how to launch them.
Right.
So I said, I joined advertising for half a decade or a decade, maybe I'll learn how to launch products. Because I knew that eventually, as I climb up the ladder, corporate ladder, I will have to have a balance of selling and launching products. That's what most of the senior people in the organization did, and I used to observe that, the senior leadership. So the very second or third day, I think, of my existence in the advertising world, my leadership authority takes a file and dumps it just like you did on and said, this is a very major, telecommunication company that's come into the state. I was then the activation head for the South. I was handling the outdoors. And he said, it's a very major account for us. You handle the outdoors. It's your baby. Now, I had absolutely no idea what advertising was.
Right.
I had no idea what hoardings were all about and how they
Mm.
position and how you sell them. I had absolutely no idea whatsoever what the outdoors were.
Mm-hmm.
But on the third day, he gave me a project. The figures of the billing were so high, I got an acute attack of dysentery.
Okay.
I said, "Oh my gosh, how
Yeah.
do I handle this?" And
Yeah.
I think, when I went back to him and I said, "Look, I have no idea." He
Yeah.
said, "Neither do I.
Yeah.
Just handle it." Right? Of course, he
Yeah.
knew. I mean, he was in the advertising agent for so many
Yeah.
years and an amazing professional. But he said, "Well, neither do I. I don't know this accounts. You handle it."
Sure.
And
Yeah.
I think that was the best thing that ever happened to me,
Mm-hmm.
because I then learned how important it is to dirty your fingers
Mm.
to paint a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm very congruent with what you said. And
Yeah.
that's when,
Yeah.
the confidence of leadership comes up, when he's got his
Yes.
back against the wall. He
Yes.
has no idea whether to go left, right, or
Yeah.
go straight,
Yeah. Yeah.
but takes that one step and makes a success out of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I can imagine that.
And I had a very similar experience again, a few years later.
Yes.
Another organizational initiative, which was, even bigger than the ISO initiative, like 10 times or 20 times bigger, we were doing in the organization. And this is an international thing that, comes from Carnegie Mellon University.
Yeah.
And that's the stamp of approval that they give, that, your company is we give you our approval that, you follow all these processes, and therefore anybody can do business with you. So I was like, I was part of the team, and I was running all of that, and suddenly there was some organizational change that happened,
Right.
and a huge, number of senior leaders left the organization, and all this turmoil was going on, and every day we had resignations, etc. And then the CEO called me to his room, and and I was second in line, so my manager used to report to the CEO, but he also wanted to leave, and he called me to his room, and he said, "Look, your boss is leaving, and so can you run this initiative now?" I said, yes, but I'm not sure how to take it till the end. Because I don't know what steps are involved. He said, I have done this without knowing, in a previous organization, I have done this without knowing what it was. You will figure it out, okay? And if you have any questions, you can come to me. We will see if there is another person who can replace your previous manager, but that will be a temporary. It will be an additional job for that person. So he will not
Right.
be able to take any of the responsibilities. Entire thing will be only on you.
Right. Right.
I said, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to give it a shot, because
Right.
this involved pan-India development centers, like I said. So he said, okay, good, take it and, run with it. I did it and I got it, and, I just did it. But, at the same time, my children were growing up. They were in their, in probably 8 or 10 years old, in that
Right.
time
Right.
frame, in that age group.
Right.
And here's something that I also want to bring to the fore, in terms of when women take up leadership roles, there's got to be a lot of support from the family.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
And
Absolutely.
it's not to say that men do not need support. Men also do need support, without, if you had, like, if men had a nagging wife or nagging somebody at home, who
It
always
would
said,
be a nightmare. It
you're
could be a
not taking
nightmare.
care of the family, you're
Yeah.
not doing this, and your job is here, etc. No man
Yeah.
would be able to achieve that as well.
Especially if the man is in sales.
Yes.
Believe me, it could be disaster.
Yes.
It could be disaster.
So, so I had a lot of support at that time. And the kind of support I had was, this is a very symbiotic thing that I created. I must say that I created this because I brought my mother-in-law and two of my sisters-in-law to stay with us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, even if and they had their own business, they were running their own
Right.
business. My two
Right.
sisters-in-law
Right.
had their own, boutique that they were running. But they stayed with us, and my mother-in-law always was at home. So I could travel, I could leave home and I could come late if I had like meetings, etc. I could come late. My husband supported in taking care of the
Yeah.
homework and getting their uniforms ready, etc. All the little things that women do and everybody else take for
But I
granted.
think, Prasanna,
Yeah,
I also feel that apart from the physical chores that one has
yeah,
to also handle,
yeah.
uh, you also need enormous amount of motivation, inspiration, and moral support from everyone at home.
Yes,
The
absolutely.
you know the amount of work I'm doing for women entrepreneurs, and
Mm,
I realize that one of the glaring problems that women entrepreneurs, especially women
mm,
entrepreneurs, step out and
mm,
do their own thing, which is always considered a highly insecure venture in life.
mm, mm, mm,
Entrepreneurship.
mm,
Uh, if a man walks out from a career and gets
mm,
into entrepreneurship,
mm.
like every other human being, you will have to learn. There will be mistakes, there will be
Yeah,
pitfalls, right? It doesn't matter whether you're a man or woman, it just
yeah,
happens to
yeah,
everyone, right?
yeah, yeah.
But where the man is concerned, everyone, including the parents and his family, will
Yeah,
say, okay, okay, don't worry, I'm sure this happens.
sure.
Because our mindsets are that he's the breadwinner, he'll finally bring the
Yes,
bread in,
yes, yes,
right?
yes.
But when it comes to my women entrepreneurs and those
Mm,
that I'm so closely connected with,
mm,
they would always say, I only have one chance. That's all I
mm,
have.
mm,
They would come to me with that premise. I only have one chance. You got to
mm,
help me out. I said, what's your chance? He said,
mm,
Sid, if I fail
mm,
once, there's no
mm.
first time, second time, third time.
Yes,
Once.
yeah,
My
yeah.
husband will say, this is not where you were supposed to
Mm,
be. My children will say, I told you, mom, this is not what you were supposed to be. My father and my mother will say, look, you got to look after your in-laws now. That's not what you're where you're supposed to be.
sure.
So everyone will start putting you down and say, it's not a woman's job to run a
Yep,
business,
yep.
right? And no matter how, let me tell you this, with absolute honesty,
Mm,
no matter how advanced even the Gen Z and Gen X's and
mm,
all
mm,
those alphabetical gens are there,
mm,
this thought process still pervades the
mm, mm,
entire movement
mm.
of a girl to become an entrepreneur.
Sure.
Even today,
Yeah, I agree with
2023,
you.
as I speak,
I agree with you. I
right?
totally
So
agree with
I can imagine. I can and if you got this assistance and help,
you. Yeah,
that's a major flip. That's
yeah,
a major
yeah,
flip for you.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I said, you need to create these systems within your family as well. Without that, you're really going to not pay attention to either your home or your work. If you did not set up these systems,
Right.
a lot of people think, oh, having in-laws in the house, it's going to be a problem. It's difficult to manage them, etc. But it is, like I said, it's symbiotic. They are helping you, and therefore you need to help them as
Yes.
well. And set those expectations. I appreciate what you're doing for me. And you say that, this is what I would like to. So we gave them, like, the help to set up their business for my sisters-in-law,
Yeah.
and encouraged them. I encouraged them a lot that they should stand on their own, and be independent, financially
Yes.
independent.
Yes.
So now they are, in their 40s and 50s, and they really are grateful that, that kind of push came from me.
Right.
My
Right.
two sisters-in-law
Right.
really grateful about that. But then these are the opportunities that we need to use in life, I think, wherever you see possibilities of, creating new leadership, creating entrepreneurship, creating abilities and talents that can be used for others.
Yes.
We
Yes.
need to be able to, as leaders, we need to keep pushing. And
That's
that's
right.
something that I believe in, that I always told my team as well, my job here in this team is to become redundant. I
Exactly.
want to become
Exactly.
redundant. At some point,
Exactly.
I should be redundant, and that means that you all know what you have to do to be able to take up and continue this work, whether I am there or not.
Yes.
Right? So
Yes.
that has been my aim, and this is what I intentionally communicate to my teams. Several times I have done that my job is eventually to become redundant in this team. And when I finally see that I'm redundant somewhere in an organization or in a team, I have always moved on, right? And of
Yes.
course there are factors
Yes.
like organizational changes, or my manager has moved on, or I did not like the manager, etc. So I there were other factors involved as well, but I always looked at more responsibilities, that a higher role that I can take.
Yeah.
So
In
from
fact,
this,
we will come to that point when you just said
yes,
that you're
yes,
different to manage. But that's the real premise of this entire conversation.
yes, yes.
But I like the way you talked about redundancy in inverted
Mm,
commas,
mm,
because it's only, I think, true leadership is when you've guided
mm,
the team to its level of efficiency
right.
based on each person's capabilities,
Yes,
not based on your capabilities,
yes,
right?
yes.
And assuming that you'd have to now uh, turn clones as your team executives,
Mm,
clones who have developed your level of capabilities, but
mm.
actually fed and developed the capabilities that already existed in each
Yes,
person.
exactly.
When they collectively start doing things as efficiently as you would
Yeah,
prefer it, that's when the redundancy, so to speak,
yeah,
falls in.
yeah.
And that is a wonderful period for any leader to
Yeah.
get more innovative,
Mm.
think more differently, because
Yes,
that's time now he's got or she's got absolute quality me time. Otherwise, you never really
mm.
have me time.
Yes,
You're always
absolutely.
with everyone. Yeah,
Yes,
you're spending so
yes,
much time with them, and you're trying to
yes,
develop them, trying to help
yes.
them find their own, levels of efficiency, and
Yeah,
then turning that up into one major portfolio of major, I'd say, a bowl of
yes,
efficiencies.
yeah,
And it's when you feel a team is now functioning by itself and you've
yeah,
actually become redundant,
yes,
is the time when you start looking at bigger things and say, okay, wait.
yes.
So I think that's a quality of leadership, Prasanna. I think very few leaders really look at,
Mm,
because redundancy for them is, oh my God, what do I do? I'm without a
mm,
job. If my
mm,
team gets as good as me. But that's
mm.
not true. The fact is
Yes,
that you got to be without your present job to create another bigger,
mm,
larger responsibility,
right.
which where you can take more calculated, informed risks to execute.
I
So
totally
I really
agree.
love what you said. That was
Yeah,
very,
yeah,
very, very
yeah.
nice.
And I think opportunities will show up when you have exhausted being the leader for a certain group, or certain initiative, etc.
Yes, yes,
Opportunities will show up, because
yes.
they're waiting there for in the universe.
Exactly,
I believe
exactly.
it.
I think
Yeah,
you touch on a wonderful point when you
yeah.
say you talk about redundancy in a very different format
Mm,
altogether,
mm,
because I think it's only when a leader becomes redundant
mm.
in our way of thinking,
Yeah,
and that person starts actually thinking of bigger things and larger things,
right.
that's when the object automatically start flowing towards the leader.
Yes,
In
yes,
automatic, he doesn't have to seek for it. It
yeah,
just comes. It just comes to him, right?
yeah.
Because that is the level, that's the playing field he's in right now, and it needs opportunities to
Absolutely.
create the correct field. But coming back to the premise that we're talking about in terms of leadership, and how a lot of employees tend to walk away
Mm.
from the leadership that they are exposed to,
Toxic.
not
Yeah.
necessarily for anything else, but because of the leadership they are in.
Yes.
How, and you are an authority on leadership, how would you therefore term
Mm.
what leadership should also be? Because coupled
Mm.
to what I told you earlier,
Mm.
on how people leave organizations because
Right.
it's just not the right leadership.
Mm.
I've also discovered in the 4 decades I've worked in the corporate world
Mm.
that there are two very specific leadership traits right?
Hmm.
And I'd love to talk to you about this because I'd love to know what your views are on this and how you would marry it to the kind of work that you're doing.
Uh-huh.
Uh, in my concept, and I could be wrong, but it's entirely my concept.
Okay.
There are two types of leaders.
Hmm.
One is the leader who is very good at his job, knows what to do, is very well informed, has enormous amount of confidence, and therefore walks the streets with absolute flair because he knows that he is in control. Not in command, but in control.
Sure.
And I think leadership is all about control, not about command. And therefore he doesn't find his team a threat to him. In fact, he feels that he is a part of the team is part of him, and there is an amazing unison of thinking, thoughts, emotion, bonding, whatever have you. You have the other category of the leader who's equally good, very efficient, has every wherewithal understanding of how to get the job done, but has one problem: suffering from enormous amount of fears of the unknown because of all what he's experienced as an executive, a team player, and then finally as a leader. And therefore, while we may be very, very confident in getting the job done, will not be confident if he has a team doing it for him, because therefore his insecurity builds up, and therefore he will not allow the members of a team to rise beyond a certain point, because he feels he might get taken. Right? His job might get taken. He may not. He'll be probably jobless.
Yes.
But all said and done, this guy is equally efficient as a person who can action things off. So you have, unfortunately, such a misbalance, because the second category constitutes almost 80% of leadership, and the first category generally about 20%. And since you have different types of leaders and different types of organizations, it's organizations or entrepreneurs who can actually recognize this at a very early stage of their entrepreneurial journey, manage to create amazing organizations because they bank on the first 20% and not the other 80%. Now, I'd like you to actually look at these two views and tell me all about what you think about it, and how you would react to this as an authoritative leadership yourself.
Yeah, so there is, just paraphrasing what you just said, there are people who are, secure in themselves, not only about their knowledge, but also about, what they can do in the future with whatever they know and whatever knowledge they have. So they are not really dependent on their current role or their current responsibilities, or the team that they have, or the job that they have, etc. They know that they will thrive anywhere.
Right.
And the other group of people are they are insecure. They do not want to. They typically don't leave the companies that they are working for. They feel safe there. They don't really want to venture out and just try if they will succeed in any other environment or any other place. And therefore, as a consequence, what happens is that they are stuck in their jobs, and whoever comes and works for them rises up to a certain level, and beyond that there is no growth.
Right.
So then, what do they have to do? It's good if they are taken out of that position and given an individual contributor role. That is great. But if they are not, then a lot of toxicity spills over, because this person himself or herself is not satisfied or not happy in life. Because they are not either getting a job anywhere else, or not happy with the same job that they are doing for the last 20 years. And they do not see, any way that they can become the top guy in this company. So they are they're feeling stuck a little bit.
Right.
Or they may also be like, some of them are like, it's okay, let me be here for, till I retire. That's something that I could not see myself doing in any company. I could not see myself work there for donkey's years and then retire from there.
And then again, I don't think
cannot see
that.
that.
Yeah, I don't think that that's really leadership.
Yeah,
That is survival.
yeah,
Leaders don't survive.
yeah,
They create
yeah,
survivors. They don't
yes,
survive for themselves. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
But you're right about the kind of insecurity that spills down, and they throw it down onto the people, and the people end up feeling stuck as well. Of course, some
Yeah.
of them will leave the company.
Yes. Yes.
Um, but I just want to share again, my experience where I had to do appraisals, and I had to fit people into a certain bell curve of who gets promotions and who gets who gets an increment, etc. And there definitely people will feel like I have contributed so much, but I'm not being rewarded for that,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
And I have been in my career, I have been pretty honest about such things, and I tell people, yes, of course, you don't have any growth here, unless I leave and you take my job.
Yes.
That's the only thing that is left here.
Yes.
You have no growth here. So then they would ask me, do you want me to try jobs in other companies?
Right.
And I would say yes. I mean, if there is an opportunity for you to have a role like mine in another company, go and take it. You're capable of doing it. Go and
Right.
take that job. Then they would say, no, but I don't know the kind of questions that can. I have actually trained people in my team to face interview questions in other companies,
Right. Okay.
right? Because I don't want to stifle their growth. I know that they cannot grow here unless they change the department or go somewhere else, or I leave the company and they
Right.
take my job. These are all uncertainties. But if they know for sure that they can get a job somewhere else with higher responsibilities that will really make them grow, try their become better versions of themselves,
Yes.
I'm all for it. Go and get it. I'm not throwing you out of the company, but if there is an opportunity, of course I'll help you. So I've had times when I would put that person in a room and say, okay, these are the questions that you will be asked, and here's how you answer those questions. People have gone on, Anand, and they have become heads of departments now,
Awesome.
COOs and CEOs of places. People who have worked in my team. So I'm very proud of that, and I'm happy that they have grown like that. And I did not want to really keep them and say like even sweet talk them like, I will
Yes.
try and get
Yes.
you a promotion, why don't you
Yes.
stay? That comes from insecurity,
Yes.
because
Yes.
I now if that person leaves, I have to replace him or her with another person, retrain those people, and I'm going to lose some traction in work. But
Yes.
that's okay. That's okay. I
Yes.
mean,
Yes.
I'm willing to do that. I'm willing
Yes.
to take a little bit of that discomfort of having to get a new person and retrain that person, rather than stifle that person's growth. And therefore, given those two options, I would always let them go and grow somewhere else. So
Yes.
I have done that.
Yes.
And therefore, I feel like I can thrive anywhere. I don't have
Yes.
a
Yes.
problem, and
Yes.
therefore I have gone to multiple companies and put myself in situations of discomfort. Willfully, I have put myself in situations of
Right.
discomfort.
Right. Right.
There was a time when organizational change happened, and I was kind of demoted. You can say I
Right.
was demoted to a lower role, and when the head of the organization called me, and he and I did not see eye to eye on many
Right.
things.
Right.
When I was called into his room and told that I'm going to be taking a lower responsibility, and the person who was going to replace me from my current job is going to be my boss.
Right.
So, it was like, what is this that's happening to me? I mean, I have worked with this organization. I have got like rewards and recognition, and I was the
Yes.
star for some time, and suddenly I'm getting this because of these organizational changes. And then it was like, I said, let me try this. This is going to be very humiliating for me. This is going to be extremely tough for me to go through this, because the person I interviewed to do this job is going to be my boss. Not just that, but I'm going to be doing something that is like not really very important for the company. Okay.
Right. Right.
But that they get revenue from that, but I don't have a lot of work to do. There's nothing like I need to lead or teach or guide or nothing. It's like autopilot. Something is happening. I just have to be there. And I told myself I am going to put myself through this, and I'm going to give this 1 year to see
Right.
if I will survive this. This really difficult situation. If I survive this, I know I can survive anywhere. Okay, so I put myself. I was there for a year. I was extremely unhappy.
Right.
um, Extremely unhappy and extremely humiliated. And people would talk down to me. The very same people who used to look up to me would talk down to me, because the organization has changed, the bosses have
Yeah.
changed, and the whole atmosphere and the ecosystem had changed. Therefore, it was like a test for myself. Can I survive this? And I was
So my question really is that you put yourself through this 1 year agony just to test yourself, or what
yes,
was something deeper than
yes,
that?
it was to test myself. It
All
was
right.
to test myself to see
Your
how
resilience,
much.
you want to check your resilience out
Yes,
as a leader?
yes, I wanted to do that.
All right.
I
Okay.
wanted to
That
do
makes
that.
sense. That
Yes.
makes sense.
Yeah, how much of this nonsense can I take? And meanwhile, of course, I was looking out for a job, and uh, then I left, because I was the unhappiness was outweighing any other
Yeah.
advantage that
Yeah.
I had.
Yeah.
Right?
That's when I talk about the very premise of
Yes.
our conversation, that people leave because of leadership.
Yes.
It's not necessarily because of a lower or higher salary,
Exactly.
or no,
Exactly.
oh, one can't see a future, everything. I think the moment you connect very productively,
Mm,
very motivationally, if such a
mm,
word exists, or inspirationally, that also
mm.
word exists, with the leader, everything else doesn't really matter,
Absolutely.
because you come to an office or to an organization, with that feeling that, wow, the next 8 or 9 hours could be just amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this leads me to my next question.
Mm,
With this kaleidoscope of experiences that you
mm,
have,
mm,
right? And now, as a person who very commonly takes workshops on leadership and consults organizations on leaderships, improving their leadership,
mhm,
what, as per you, are the most important traits of leadership that is required in today's ecosystem?
mm, mm, mm. Yeah, I think, I would say one thing is definitely, knowledge. You
All
need
right.
to have knowledge about whatever you're talking about. Whichever field you're in, you need to have knowledge about what is happening in that field currently.
All right.
If you don't
Okay.
keep yourself updated, if you don't know what is happening in your field of work, you cannot be an authority. You really cannot talk to anybody about the changes that are happening. See, even if you look at leadership, Anand, a few
Hmm.
years ago, the concept of leadership was more of being very command and control, and
Autocratic, very autocratic. It was very autocratic.
right, very autocratic.
Yes, yes.
It has changed over a period of time,
Absolutely,
right?
unbelievably, it has
Yeah,
changed.
it
Yes.
has changed. And the very same things that were laughed at, for example, somebody being very soft and somebody being very
Yeah.
caring, for a man to be like that was it was unthinkable. A
Unthinkable. I
man
think, I
cannot
think,
be like that.
I think today's leadership is more transformational than actually
Yes,
autocratic. It's very
yes,
transformational.
yes, exactly.
Yes.
Okay. So if you're not keeping track of how did that change come about? Why did that happen? Why is it that leadership has changed? What the concept of leadership, why has it changed? What were the influences that happened? What's the history of it, etc.? So you need to keep abreast of that, and understand what are the influences, not just keeping that in mind, but also think about what's the future going to be. How are the millennials and the Gen Z, they how do they look at leadership, right? And how do what do they think?
Yes.
I have a 5-year-old grandson who does not like to be commanded. He does not. If you tell him now put that down, he will not do it. He just will not do it. But if I say it like, it'll be good if you can put that down, because if you do it is going to hurt you.
Yeah.
So I don't want to see you hurt, and therefore I think it's a good idea if you can put that down. What do you think? And he will put it down, right? So there is a way to deal with the coming generations as well, and you need to
Yeah.
really look at how to adapt. So I would say, after having the knowledge, you also need to know how to adapt to the generations that are coming, the knowledge that is emerging, etc. How do you
Right.
adapt yourself? Because if you
Right.
don't adapt yourself, and or you're stuck in our days, it used to be like that. You're dead.
Yes. Yes.
You're
Yes.
dead. I mean,
Yes.
that's not going to
Very true.
really
Very
work
true.
at all.
Very
You
true.
really need to adapt and
Yes.
change.
Yes.
Your values may not change, your principles may not change, that the basic foundation of what a leader is, etc., those things may not change, but then the way you execute it, the way you make others understand, and the way you make things happen as a leader, that you need to adapt to a given situation, and to a given a group or given ecosystem. I think you really need to do that. You adapt yourself.
Right.
That's
Right.
very important.
Right. I think that. I think these two things certainly do sum up. Yes, upskilling, getting yourself
Mm.
more connected with what's happening in your ecosystem around you is very critical, and then
Yeah,
adapting to everything that happens around you.
yeah,
Both together could actually create an amazing
yeah.
combination assets of a leader. Finally, Prasanna, I'd like you to talk about an incident or two that has inspired you and can inspire every viewer here
Mm.
listening and watching you.
Mm, 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 mm. Uh, well, I would narrate like one incident that really impacted me on how to be a good leader. Okay,
Okay,
so
okay. This is interesting.
yeah. So in one of the jobs that I took, like I said, one was pan India. Now I took up a role which was a different company, but this was across the globe. I had the role. It was a global role, right?
Okay,
So for the very first time, I was going to meet teams which were in UK and US, etc. So they were in different parts of those countries, and I was traveling to go and see them. But before I went there, my manager said, "Why don't you first stop over at the headquarters?" And
okay,
and then get oriented to, like, I would like to talk to you first, and then you go ahead with your travels.
all right,
So when I went there, he sat me down and he explained the entire organizational structure, who is the CEO, and this was a much larger company from the previous one that I had worked,
okay,
and this was like a multinational, and the CEO and everybody, all the CXOs all sat in this headquarters.
Right.
And then he said, he explained everything, and he explained what businesses the company is in, and what works and what doesn't work in this company. How do I earn the trust of people? What are the things I need to keep in mind? Like, he also told me, like, nobody is going to really welcome you with a red carpet, okay, because you're coming from India, and they are not used to getting instructions from India. They have been independent and etc., but now you are their boss, and they are not going to really welcome you. So you have to earn their trust. He said you have to earn their trust. And he led me through everything step by step as to how I should get it right, how I can succeed in this role. And he was my manager for I think 7 years that I was in that company, and he was awesome.
Okay.
He is one of my role models
Right.
as to who should be a leader, because he set me up for success. He set me up for success. Right?
That's exactly what I have in my mind. Yes.
Yes. And he was not insecure, or he was nothing of that sort, and he made sure that anything I did would lead me for my growth.
Right.
And through those years, there have been there have been differences of opinion, conflicts, etc., with people in the group, in his team, with me and the other people. There have been conflicts. There have been, and when he comes to know about the conflicts that I'm having, because this is a global initiative that I was running, and it's bound to be conflicts. There's bound to be differences of opinion. And when I would have these spats with other people from other countries, he would come to know about it, and he would ask me, do you want me to step in and solve this problem? And I would tell him, no, not yet. Okay.
Right.
If I cannot manage this situation, I'll come back to you, and I will ask you for your help. But till then, don't do anything. Like, don't do anything. Don't take any step. He respected me for that, because I was not running to him and saying, Daddy, please help me, right? So see, he's hitting me, or he's talking to me like this, etc. So he respected me for taking that stance of saying no to his help. Right. And that I would come back to him if I needed help. Right. That's one thing that I would say was, what a good leadership looks like. Right. And he would always, not just to me, he would encourage a lot of people like that. So I learned a lot about, how to be a good leader. Interestingly, he was not a popular guy. He was not a popular guy in the organization, because he spoke his mind. He spoke his mind, like, he would even use, 4-letter words, and, and he would call a spade a spade. He was a tough guy, so he was not popular in the organization. But in my opinion, he was a good leader, because he really took care of, how his reportees would succeed. That was important for him. Yeah. Right.
I think that's I can feel where you're coming from, because I have had leaders. I've worked under leadership where I realized the toughest of them are the people who are the most concerned of you. And they come from, and we have to also accept the fact that they come from a thought process of the ancient Indian system of governance, which is, unless you don't kick, the cart doesn't move.
Yeah.
Right. So that certainly it's come from our time. I mean, when I was a young executive, way back in the very late 70s and early 80s, it was a regular thing that unless you don't kick him, he is not going to moved from a donkey to a horse.
Yes,
That,
yes,
that transformed from donkey to horse. I remember
yes, yes,
once I had this, one of our bosses said that. He says, one day I was very upset that he
yeah,
kept, shouting at me a lot. And I went up to room one day. That's the day I actually decided I would resign. So I just walked up and I said, boss, enough is enough. You can't do this. And he says, you know why? I'm doing this because I have so much of confidence in you,
yeah.
and I know you can be amazing. But I also know that unless you don't kick the animal, the donkey will now become a horse. Now,
Okay.
donkeys can never become horses,
Yeah, yeah, I know.
that was a thought then,
Sure.
and I think many of us who have lived that
Yes.
existence can very well accept that even today
Mm,
as an important factor of development and growth. But
mm,
that will probably not gel with today's generation, where they are more handled with a lot of kid gloves, so to speak, right? But nevertheless, I think that was very inspiring because
yeah.
it brings to fore a very important fact that what is also required
Mm,
is resilience.
yeah, yeah.
There has to be resilience to understand leadership, and I
Yes.
think that's that's the key takeaway I get from what you
Sure.
just said.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
sir.
the other thing, the other important aspect of leadership, I would say, and especially for those who are aspiring to get, into leadership roles,
Yes,
is to not just look at, what is in my plate and how do I execute it the best.
yes.
But one of the tricks I would say, now this is like a what would it's called cheat something, cheat code. That's what
Okay,
the video games, etc., you get the cheat
okay,
code.
okay, okay.
So this is one of the cheat codes that I have used in my leadership responsibilities, is that I ask my boss, is there
Okay,
anything I can take off your plate? You have so many
okay,
responsibilities, so
okay.
is there something that you want to hand over to me, that can ease your work? And always they have something to hand over to you. Okay, so
Yeah,
it's like, and the reason I did that, again, I will share this secret. The reason I did that is for me to grow, not just to ease the boss, but how can I do my manager's work, a little bit of that, in order for me to grow, right? I am delegating some of my work to my team members, and I have some space for growth now, right? Now, how do I use that space? I ask my boss if he can, he wants to hand over something to me that will ease him. So I
yes,
learned some of the work that. So he says, "Oh, will you sit through this meeting, and will you come with me and kind of either take notes or give me your opinion about what is happening here, etc., and we can talk about it, and then probably I will nominate you to be attending that meeting over a period of time." So these kind of things, where you kind of take up responsibilities intentionally,
yes,
and volunteer yourself to learn something new, right? This is one of the ways you can do that, not just reading books or attending seminars and conferences,
yes, yes,
but
yes.
actually doing the work that your boss is doing for the company within the organization, right?
Yes,
And
Prasanna, this takes me back
yeah.
a decade and a half, maybe 2 decades, I think.
Mm,
And it's not what a wonderful thing you said.
mm,
I had a Kashmiri boss
mm,
who I was extremely fond of,
mm.
but he was a very logical thinker
Right.
and a very amazing man. And we worked for
Mm,
many years together in
mm,
several organizations, not just
mm,
one.
mm, mm.
And but when I had my first experience with him,
Yes.
uh, you know, uh, we always hanker over increments.
Mm,
It
mm.
happens all the time.
Yes.
March is when you're always upset with what you got.
Yeah.
And in sales, thankfully, I was a person who always delivered
Yeah.
because that's the strength I had.
Mm,
Probably because it just came to me very easily. Sales was something that I loved it. And my personality was such that it just connected with the job description of a sales guy. So
mm,
I think that was one big advantage I had. No major rocket science. It was just really that. So when in March and when I was told about my increment, I was very upset, and I went up
yeah.
to him, and I told him, I said, "Look, this is not what I expected."
Mm,
So he says, "What did you expect?" I said, I didn't expect some 5-6%. I expect at least 30%.
Mm.
So he sat me down
Mm.
and he said, let's look at what your achievements were.
Mm.
So he says, did you achieve your target?
Mm.
I said, yes, I did.
Mm.
Did you overachieve your target? I said, no, but I got extremely close to it.
Mm.
He says, that's what you signed up for, that's what you paid for. So
Yeah.
that's average job. That's an average job. So in the same way, he started questioning me on all my job description and what all I had achieved. And I realized then from him that what all I had done was actually I had been paid for, and I therefore didn't require an increment.
Yeah.
I didn't chalk up for an increment because I hadn't done anything exemplary.
Yeah.
So he says, look, if you want a higher position and you want a better salary, then you've got to go beyond your job description or what is expected out of you. If you have to do, let's say, 10 units and you do 20 units, you're my man. If you have responsibility A, B, and C as an executive or as a assistant manager, whatever, but you actually work as a regional head, then I give you twice what you're earning because that's what you should be paid for. Right? And that changed my entire, let me tell you, that conversation changed my entire concept of what I should be as a professional and what I should be as a leader. And thereafter, not a single person, HR or even top brasses could say no when I was unhappy with the increment I got for the simple reason I'd got to prove it to them that this is actually what you would have paid me if I had achieved this for you, which I have achieved. I said, therefore, this is what you're supposed to pay me. And or give me the kind of couples or give me all the progress that I need because I have overachieved in every aspect, not just one. And it took this particular person, this particular amazing leader, to make me actually see the light of day for the next decades that I became a CEO. Because if he hadn't taught me that, I would have not finally got to where I was, probably. Because I've been always working within that little shell that I had signed up for. But not breaking out of it and getting to space which I hadn't signed up for, but now I should be reimbursed for. So that was fantastic. Well then, Prasanna, thank you so. I tell you, this was amazing. I don't even know how long we've been speaking. It's been such a long time. I lost time completely, and I must thank you for being with us. Thank you for being on my show today.
Wonderful.
With your kaleidoscope experiences and your talk on leadership, I am sure it will largely benefit all our viewers. And I hope this is not the last time I see you on my show. I am going to tickle your brain again very soon.
Oh, lovely, lovely. I would love to be back again. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity to have this chat with you. It was lovely to hear your experiences as well.
Thank you so much, Prasanna. It was, I think you drew them out of me. In very many ways, you drew them out of me. Thank you so much, Prasanna. Have a wonderful life.
Thanks, Anand. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.